All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Free and Happy New Year to everybody. 2021 is gone and 2022 is here. Hey, if you're new with us this evening, this is Free is a community for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees. I'm Ryan, and I'm the pastor here, and it's good to be with you all tonight on a very cold and snowy night here in Denver. If you're joining us online, well, y'all should know that too. It's really cold. We had a snowstorm roll in last night and this morning, so the roads are a bit dicey. Be careful going home. It could get a little icy and dicey. But hey, for you online folks, we're glad you're here. We're glad you're part of this community. We're glad you're gathering in your living room or sober living houses or whatever state you're joining us from. Welcome, welcome, welcome to you. All right, y'all, a few things you might want to know about coming up in this community. I'm going to invite Noel Holskin into the house. Look at that. You got a round of applause. Noel, tell us what's happening. We've got some really exciting things coming up I want you all to hear about, but you need a mic for this.
I do.
Take it away.
I'm not Derek. Hey, everyone. If you are new tonight, I just wanted to welcome you. There's a lot of new faces tonight. We have these Connect cards that are out front that you can find by the donation boxes or right when you walk in. I would love for y'all to fill these out so we can keep in contact with you. If you're online and you just go to the Connect with us, there's a card that you can fill out online. We'll send you a sobriety birthday card when it's your sober date, but you get the weekly emails and you can keep in touch with us. So just if you could grab a Connect card. If you have been here a minute and you're unsure if we have your contact information, just go ahead and fill out another one and we'll get you all set up. The second thing that we have going on, starting on January 15th, it's a Tuesday evening from 6:30 to 8. We're kicking off a 5-week series for our Enneagram. Enneagram is it's about doing inner work on ourselves, addressing patterns that we have, whether they're good or bad. Once we know better, we can do better. And so it's a 5-week course from 6:30 to 8 on Tuesdays, kicking off January 15th, concluding on February 18th. We'll be here in the big room here at Free. And it's not, Ryan's not going to be teaching this. It's these Enneagram licensed coaches that are coming in and just giving us a great course for 5 weeks. So we would love to have y'all come and be a part of it. So it's $30 for the course itself. You can start by just Venmoing Free. Look up Free Spiritual Community, or the actual username is @free-1. And then go ahead and shoot me an email, Noel@Free Spiritual Community, and we'll get you all signed up. There's an initial assessment that you have to take, but it's going to be a great 5-week course for y'all on Tuesday evening. So hopefully we see you there. Got one more announcement, but I need my buddy Derek to come up and take care of it for me. So we'll pass off the mic here.
Knock you off. Hi, everyone. How's it doing tonight? I'm Derek. I just want to open up with just a little prayer to get this started. So if you put your hands out. God, thank you so much for 2021. Thank you for the new home you've given us here at Free in this community, and the love and the hearts and the things that we've gone through to grow at this point. We ask that you bless our 2022, that you make this community grow, that you let this thing that we do, breaking the silence of addiction, become even more important in this community, that we can all reach out, that we can all lean on each other when it's hard, but let our dreams, goals, and joy become through with you together. And when we walk through the middle and we rip this roof off and we got seats for people to sit in this 2022, allow those people to come in. Let us be the community we're supposed to be this year. So thank you so much this year. In your name, amen. All right, so I'm announcing, because of this great community and Ryan and Free, I was able to get my peer coaching certs. And I've been doing that with Aurora Sober Living, thank you. And every Wednesday now from about 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., I'll be here doing service work. I will be peer coaching for the community. Whoever needs it, addict, loved one addict, spiritual refugee. If you need mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, or relational help, maybe not relational help because I'm not that good at relations, but I can help you find someone that is good at relationship help and trauma and stuff like that. Or you just need someone to hang out with or talk to. That's what I'm certified to do. And we don't do this alone. The opposite of addiction is connection. So I will be here from 9 to 4 with some of the other Aurora Sober Living coaches. Karis and Sherry Blosser are the ones that help hire me. So we will be here doing that. So if you need any answers or questions answered, things done, I will help walk you through those things, whether it's Medicaid, insurance, recovery, sober homes. How do I get my loved one into a sober home? I'm just struggling and I need to talk. Come sit down with me. You know, the cafe will be ready soon. This place is going to be awesome. I'd be happy to walk with you. The other thing, on January 15th, Aurora Sober Living and Free will be having an event after the service about 8:30. We will be throwing some games when we do board games. I'm sure you guys have played Cards Against Humanity. It's kind of up the attic alley there, so we can have some fun. Come get connected. You know, we're going to try and do this once a month, but recovery can be hard. Recovery can be these things that are just wearing, but it can be fun. It's supposed to be about joy. So let's get connected. Let's play some games. Let's have some food. January 15th at 8:30, come join Aurora Sober Living and Free for some music, karaoke, and some games. I love you all. God bless, okay?
Thank you, Dave. Love you, brother. Man, y'all are going to start like the party right when I'm going to bed. 8:30, come on. Hey, I just want to follow up on one thing Noel said. This Enneagram course, you won't hear me say this often, where I hope all of you come. Well, you might hear me say that a few times. I hope all of you sign up for this Enneagram course. This is good stuff for self-awareness. Eric Kellogg and Sean Kellogg are dear friends of Tammy and mine, dear friends, and they are great Enneagram teachers, and this is good stuff. So I hope you sign up and plan on coming for those 5 weeks on Tuesdays starting in January. January 18th, is that the date? January 18th. January 18th, so sign up. I hope y'all come. Hey, I think do we have a little video to share? Let's show a little video about what people are saying.
Okay, I've never spoken in front of a camera, and so what free means to me is when my boyfriend died, literally right now, a month ago to the minute, of an overdose, and he died alone, and I had nowhere to go, and this place saved my life, and I wouldn't know where to go, and it's not a church, and it's not a meeting, and it's everything, and the people, and everyone's real and raw, and helped me be brave, so thank you.
Thank you, Danny Colella, for always putting together some videos for us, and he did tell me to give this preface to the video that the night that was filmed, it was particularly loud, and there was kids running around, so we had to mess with sound, and that's why you had a little bit of sound issue in that video. But thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Danny, for always doing our videos for us. It's good to know what people are saying. Now, listen, if you're new with us at Free, the way we start every Saturday night is with celebrations. We celebrate the good stuff. We lift up the good stuff, and we believe that God joins with us in these celebrations. So maybe it's a sobriety anniversary, a new job, new babies being born, the new stuff in life. That's the stuff we begin with. We don't leave out the hard stuff. We don't leave out the heartaches, but we save those for the end. So you're going to have 3 minutes. For those of you online, you have 3 minutes to get real, to get vulnerable, in non-creepy ways, of course. But if you're thinking to yourself, man, I don't want to put in the comments like what my celebration is, or at the end what my heartache is, it's how we do community together. It's how we celebrate together. So let people in on your heart, on your life. And if you're here in the house, we'll just pass a microphone around, and you can tell us in just a sentence or two what you're celebrating. So y'all take 3 minutes, and then we'll be right back with you. And Derek here is going to pass the mic.
Hello world, wake me up to another good morning, time to go. Got that smile upon my face, 'cause there's excitement in the chase, this I know. Yeah, I'm going for the ride, and by myself I am alive, and I soar. Still I run towards the wind, and let the challenge draw me in, 'cause I want more. Oh, we are all looking for adventure. We are all looking for adventure. We are all looking for adventure. We are all looking living free, and I was meant to be. I'm living free.
Bring it in with the one and only Tammy Kennedy.
Hello.
Wait, you got to get on this side of me,
Oh,
though.
wow. I came up the other side.
We always do it the same way. We don't want to screw with the system now. All right. For those of you that don't know Tammy, I think most of you know Tammy. She's the co-founder here at Free, also my wife, and it's always good to have you up here with me. Shall we celebrate together?
We shall.
Why don't you take the first one?
Ooh, I
Our
want to say
online
something too,
community,
really quick.
yes.
So I have to expand on the Enneagram first and foremost. It changed my life. It was, for a lot of people, they have things that they say, that thing was a game changer. It was for me. And I did it with Sean, who's going to be here. And Eric came and helped with some of the classes too. But it like blows your mind and gives you so much insight into who you are. So I recommend it. And there's childcare.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Yeah. Wow.
Now
I
more
know.
people are going to come. They're like, no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any fours out there?
Woohoo.
All right. Yeah, we got a
Nice.
couple of you. All
Any
right,
nines
let's
out
move
there?
on to celebrate. Nines? Any nines out there? Tammy's a nine.
Nines.
Oh, that's why we're such a
Yeah, there
peaceful
we go.
community.
Mhm.
Look at us. Look at us. All right.
Okay. Hey, Pam. She says, I received a letter from my son. First communication in over a month.
All
We'll
right,
take that,
Pam.
huh?
Yeah, good news. Lauren Nelson. By the way, I don't want y'all to miss next week. Lauren Nelson is our guest storyteller. She's going to share from the perspective of the loved one of an addict, and it's going to be powerful stuff, so don't miss next week. We kick off a new series. Lauren says, celebrating Brandon's first full calendar year sober in over 2 decades.
Wow, B.
Way to go, Brandon. Thank you for sharing that with
Alright.
us, Lauren. Good
Oh,
stuff.
yeah. I remember Brandon walking in, barely having 30 days, so
I
that's
do
really,
too.
that's
It was a
awesome.
beautiful moment.
Mhm. Julie says, celebrating the arrival of our granddaughter, Aspen Rose. That's pretty. 2 months early, but mom and baby are doing well. That's awesome.
Way to go, Julie. Congratulations. All right, we got Chandra here. Sandra. Is it Sandra or Sandra? Sandra. We're going to go with that. My son Hunter wished me a Happy New Year today. Haven't seen or talked to him in a long time. Man, that's the good stuff. Thank you for sharing that with us, Sandra. Do we have one more?
Okay.
Let's do one more.
Arnold says, I want to celebrate my girlfriend. She is new in my life, making me a better person, and she doesn't even know it.
All right. I hope she's
Well, now
sitting
she
next
does
to
know.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us, Arnold. All right, Tammy, thank you for joining with me. At this point, we usually have a little video, a kickoff series video, but we don't because this week is just kind of a one-off. And I want to use this week to launch in to our next series, which is going to be called What We Stand For, where we're going to cover the 4 things that we stand for primarily in this community, our 4 statements of what we stand for. You'll see them on the wall. Next week, we're going to start with authenticity, then move into recovery, and then why we don't do shame, and then new life. So it's going to be an important series. I hope you all plan on joining us for it. And so what I want to do tonight is share with you some of the message that I shared with University Park United Methodist Church, which is just down the street. You all have heard me talk about them before, just a mile that way. And I want to share with you a message, part of this message, to use it as our starting place for launching into this next series. Are you with me? But let's first start with some questions and participation, shall we? So I want you all to be brave. That's not asking much of this community. Y'all do it day in and day out. But would you be willing to stand? If you have battled this thing of addiction, would you just be willing to stand where you are? Well, damn near the whole community. Take a minute and look around. Yeah. Yeah. Are they all waving in the back? They're all waving in the back. Y'all can be seated. Even the tech team. And I realize some of you might stand more than once, and that's totally okay. Would you be willing to stand if you have a loved one, if you have watched them or are watching them battle this thing of addiction? Would you stand? Yeah, again, just take a moment and look around. You can be seated. Sorry, it's going to feel like a Catholic service for some of y'all. Stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down. If you're one of our spiritual refugees, you felt kicked around by religion. You were told somewhere along the way that you didn't belong. You believed into a narrative that when it came to you and God, you fundamentally didn't belong. Would you be brave enough to stand? Yeah, again, take a moment, look around, see comrades in the journey. You can be seated. You know, sometimes we're bound together through pain and brokenness. Is it true? It's our greatest bond. You know, it was a few weeks before we started Free. This was 2018, June of 2018, when we had our very first gathering in Canada's backyard, because that's where we started Free, right in our backyard. And I was talking with a guy at the church where I was serving. We were standing in the sanctuary, and I was talking with him, and I was casting a vision of what Free was going to be. And I shared with him some statistics. I shared with him that the disease of addiction now affects more Americans than cancer, diabetes, and heart disease. I shared with him that 23.5 million Americans battle this thing of drug and alcohol addiction. I told him that the state of Colorado has one of the highest overdose rates in the entire nation. I shared with him that in Highlands Ranch, where we were standing and where we currently live, that Highlands Ranch is now considered the heroin capital of Colorado. I shared with him that in Colorado in the last 10 years, the suicide rate has climbed from 16.5 to 19.4 per 100,000 residents. And by the way, as a side note, some of you read in the New York Times just a few weeks ago, or the CDC, they reported that in the last 12-month period that ended in April, overdose deaths rose to over 100,000 people. That's actual people. We have never before seen that number, and that number has more than doubled since 2015. More than doubled. I told him that addiction was winning in our community, that the loved ones of our addicts, they too were feeling hopeless and they were feeling disconnected and in suffering, and people were giving up on the church. People are still giving up on the church, and many felt like because they were told they didn't belong. And I told him that Free was going to be a place for the dying and the disconnected. That Free was going to be a place for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees, a place where we could be open and honest with our struggles. And y'all, I'll never forget what he said as we were standing in that sanctuary, and he said it with the best of intentions. He said, "Man, Ryan, I got to be honest with you. It all sounds pretty dark and gloomy. I mean, are you sure you want to give up all of this for that?" And you know what happened the very next week? Nick, 20 years old, a guy that I was sponsoring, friend of mine, he was actually committed to being on our launch team to help us launch in the backyard. Well, that Monday morning, his mom called me, and they just found Nick dead in his bed with a needle in his arm. His body couldn't handle the amount of drugs in his system. Man, is he right? And this is what I'm thinking. Is he right? Do I want to give up this for this? That year in 2018, I did 6 funerals, all that were drug and alcohol related. 5 of those 6 people were under the age of 35. Man, is he right? Do I want to give up this for that? And y'all, what I can tell you today is I am, as the pastor of this free spiritual community, I am exactly where God has called me to be. And I know that for many of you in this community, you believe the same thing is true in your life. And so I want to remind you, my brothers and sisters, we do not do our work in the promised land, the land flowing with milk and honey. And there is nothing wrong with that land, but it's not the land we're called to. We do our work in the valley of dry bones. It is a place of death and dying, but it is also a place where new life is always possible. It is also the place where the very depths of joy can be experienced. And I believe God is in this place. So I want to turn to Ezekiel. Ezekiel, my boy Ezekiel, he was an Old Testament prophet. And now some people think of prophets as, maybe you grew up hearing that prophets, they would predict the future. And this isn't totally the case. Prophets were these spokespeople that would come along, and they were spokespersons for God. And they would always speak to their people. And because they were speaking to their people, they could say some really hard things. And they always spoke a word of hope. Now, Ezekiel wasn't just any Old Testament or Hebrew Bible prophet. He was speaking during a very particular time in history, a time that's known, you might remember your history books on this one, a time that's known as the Babylonian exile. Y'all remember this phrase, the Babylonian exile? Remember this time in history? The Babylonians, they came into Jerusalem and they destroyed the temple. The temple was, for the people in Jerusalem, it was like the center place for life. They destroyed the temple. They did awful things to the men, women, and children. And then they took the survivors out of their homeland of Jerusalem and brought them into Babylon, where they lived in exile or in captivity, which is why it's called the Babylonian exile. There are texts like history books and scriptures that tell us what some of these scenes were like. And they are described as battlefields with dead, lifeless bodies lying everywhere. Now, Ezekiel, he's a prophet, and he comes along in this Old Testament book of Ezekiel. He describes these visions. And so I want to share with you all one of these visions that he describes. It's found in chapter 37, and it's verses 1 through 12. And I want to share with you this vision because I actually think it's our vision. It's an ancient new vision. Here's how it starts. The Lord's power came over me. And while I was in so let me back up a minute. He takes people on a tour through this vision. So we're going on a tour as we read this. Keep that in mind. The Lord's power came over me, and while I was in the Lord's Spirit, He led me out and sat me in the middle of a certain valley. It was full of bones. He led me through them all around, and I saw that there were a great many of them on the valley floor, and they were very dry. Let's just pause there for just a moment. Because, see, the image of dry bones, it's a metaphor for what happens when you're exposed to the elements for too long. How many of y'all know exactly what that's like? You've been exposed to the elements for too long. He keeps going. He asked me, human one, can these bones live again? I said, Lord God, only you know. He said to me, prophesy over these bones. And when you see that word prophesy, think of speaking a good word, giving hope. Prophesy over these bones. Say a good word to them. Dry bones, hear the Lord's word. The Lord God proclaims to these bones, I am about to put breath in you, and you will live again. I will put sinews on you. You know what sinews are? The things that hold the tendons together. I will put sinews on you, place flesh on you, and cover you with skin. When I put breath in you and you come to life, you will know that I'm the Lord. So I prophesied just as I was commanded. There was a great noise as I was prophesying, then a great quaking, and the bones came together bone by bone. When I looked, suddenly there were sinews on them. The flesh appeared, and then they were covered over with skin, but there was still no breath in them. Let's pause for one more moment. Because, this is our story, isn't it? For those of you early in recovery from addiction, this is your story, right? For those of you in recovery from being addicted to the addict in your life, this is our story. It's like we're starting to be put back together again. We're starting to experience life again, but it's not all the way there yet, is it? Because this new life stuff, this resurrection stuff, resurrected life, it takes a bit of time, doesn't it? It doesn't happen overnight. Is it true? He said to me, prophesy to the breath. Prophesy, human one. Say to the breath, the Lord God proclaims, come from the four winds, breath. Breathe into these dead bodies and let them live. I prophesied just as he commanded me. When the breath entered them, they came to life and stood on their feet, an extraordinarily large company. He said to me, human one, these bones are the entire house of Israel. They say our bones are dried up and our hope is gone. We are completely cut off. Now let's pause for one more minute because, see, we have to understand something here. For the ancient Hebrew people, the worst possible scenario wasn't literal death. Now, it's something far worse. The worst possible scenario would be to be cut off, to be abandoned by God. It's total despair, that God is no longer present. It's that kind of pain that seems like it's going to last forever. It's the kind of suffering without solutions. Have you been there? That kind of total despair, being cut off, feeling cut off, worse than death itself. And the truth is, some of you, my brothers and sisters, know exactly what it's like to also have new life, to sense God's breath filling your lifeless lungs, to stand on your own 2 feet in an extraordinarily large company of others who have been exactly where you've been. And what does God say to Ezekiel in this valley of dry bones? Here's how he closes it. So now, prophesy and say to them, the Lord God proclaims, I'm opening up your graves. I will raise you up from your graves. Y'all do know God does God's best work in graveyards, right? I mean, in this vision, God is asking Ezekiel, do you believe new life can happen? Even here, even in this place? And doesn't God ask us the same question? Ryan, free people, do you believe new life can happen here, even in this place? Even in the midst of all the gloomy statistics, do you believe that new life is possible? And see, if you are part of this free community, you need to know we are called to the valley of dry bones. It is our starting place. And it's true, every single week, we get a front row seat to God's miracles happening, of graves opening up. I mean, you hear it during the celebrations. Graves opening up, dry bones coming back to life. You know, I got sober on January 7th of 2013. And a few months prior to me getting sober, because see, that new life stuff, it takes some time sometimes. It doesn't happen overnight. A few months prior, you know, I was serving as one of the pastors, 1 mile that way, University Park United Methodist Church. I was doing campus ministry right over there, here at the University of Denver. This was my old stomping grounds. This was my neighborhood. And man, I was filled with so much shame. I hated myself. I was a drunk and I was a pastor. I was filled with so much fear and so much anger about things in my life I didn't know how to deal with. And so I walked down the hallway of that church where I was serving as one of the pastors, and I walked into my boss's office, Reverend Paul Kotke. And I walked into his office and I said, man, Paul, I can't stop drinking. And I'm losing everything that is most important to me. And man, I was so sure what he was going to say to me. Ryan, you have no business being a pastor. You have no business going through the ordination process. You have no business doing ministry. What in the hell are you thinking? And you know, that's not what that man said to me at all. That man cried with me. He walked with me. He was a friend and mentor to me. And he pointed me in a different direction. Because see, I think he knew what was deep down in here, that I was longing for places of healing, that I was in that valley. And what I can also tell you is I know exactly what it's like for God to raise me from the grave and to breathe new life into my lifeless lungs at a moment when I hated myself. And do y'all know the number one reason people are leaving the church? Because see, there's always all kinds of studies always coming out from the Pew Research and other research organizations, and they're always researching, why is religion dying? Why is the church dying? Why are all religions in America on the downward spiral at a really quick rate? You know what the number one reason is? People are leaving because they can't be honest with their struggles inside the doors of a church. Which is why our tagline here is what? We don't do shame. Paul didn't do shame on me because I think he knew the deepest truth about shame. Shame never works. It never produces the desired outcomes. Shame always produces the opposite of what we're going for. We don't do shame because shame doesn't work. Kiera is here in the front row. Kiera started attending free about a year ago. And you know, when Kiera started attending free, and by the way, she's what we say, one of us. She knows the battle of addiction. She's been clean and sober now for just over 2 years. Come on now. She's a single mama raising her kids. And when she came into free, she didn't have any church experience, didn't have religious language. And in fact, on many Saturdays when she started to come, I would go home, and this was about a year ago, and I would go home and I would read my Facebook messages, and there was always a message from Kiera asking really hard questions, like big questions about God and religion. One of her questions was, hey, Ryan, I know you introduced yourself as a pastor tonight. What is a pastor? What does a pastor do? But these are big questions, right? And one of those messages that Kiera sent was really powerful. I went back and read it this week. She simply said, free, you all need to know, free saved my life. Free gave me a safe place when I really needed it. And you know, a few weeks ago, Kiera invited me and the family into her home. She was hosting a board game night. I don't know, there was like 30, 40 people there. Tara was there. She was hosting a board game night with pizza. And so we walk in the door, and one of the first things I noticed was on Kiera's walls and on her coffee table was like these different plaques. And many of them were plaques of scripture. And the one that caught my eye the most was this plaque on her coffee table, and it simply said, God is not mad at you. Luke 15. Do y'all remember that story? I mean, it is one of the most foundational, transformative stories for this community. It's a story we revisit often. Do you remember it? The younger son comes to the dad and asks for his inheritance money, which is essentially saying, Dad, I wish you were dead so I could have my money. And the father, he says, sure, take it, it's yours. And so the younger son takes the money and goes off and squanders it on all this scandalous living. Things get so bad. Some of y'all know exactly what this story is about. Things get so bad, he says, I got to go back home. I'm out of money. I'm miserable. But he says, I can't go back home because Pops is never going to take me back. And if he does take me back, I'm just going to be a hired hand. It'll be no good. But I'm out of money, so I got to drag my butt back home. So that's what he does. He drags his butt back home. And he knows how the father is going to respond. And if you're fuzzy on the story, the father's an image for God in this story. He's sure how the father is going to respond. And it's not what happened at all. The father sees him at a distance and then runs to him. And the text tells us he was filled with compassion. He gives his son a hug and he says, let's celebrate. He starts screaming and shouting to all the neighbors, it's time to celebrate. We got to celebrate. My boy is home. He was dead and now he's alive again. And remember what the older brother did? The older brother comes up and says, Pops, I don't get it, man. Why are we celebrating this fool? And he says, because he said, the older son says, Pops, I've been with you the whole time. I've followed all the right rules. And you're going to sublet this punk? And the father says, you have been with me the whole time. All I have is yours. But my son was dead, and now he's alive again. We must celebrate. God wasn't angry. Do you know why that plaque stood out to me? Because I can't tell y'all how many people are roaming around thinking that God is angry with them. They have this thought of, if I come home, God's going to punish me. God's going to have shame to do on me. God's going to be so disappointed and mad at me. No. Maybe God just wants you to come home. So a couple of weeks ago, I walked into my office, and there was this plaque on my desk. Kira had this uniquely made with the free logo in it. Now will be in my office forever and ever and ever. And it's also why we have these shirts that were made. Because when I heard this, when I saw that, I was so moved to say, this is exactly what the world needs to hear the message. Can y'all see that? God is not mad at you. So we have these shirts. They just arrived. Noel picked them up. Was it yesterday? They just arrived. So if you want to get a God is not mad at you t-shirt, they're out by the ping pong table where all the other shirts are. And I encourage you to get one. They're $15. Little plug there. But speaking of opening graves, bringing new life, baptized Kira's kids just a few weeks ago. Kira is now a small business owner, very successful small business owner, not even a small business anymore, kind of a large business. She's now, as of a couple of weeks ago, on our buildings operations team. Talk about a God who is opening up graves. We see miracles here day in and day out. And listen, if you are part of this community, and if you're here tonight, that means you are part of this community. You need to know you have a place here. God is not mad at you. In fact, God takes great delight in you, sons and daughters. And listen, I realize we are all at different places in the journey. Some of you are here tonight, and you are the dead and dying. You are the ones in the valley, the disconnected. You are the dry bones. You are feeling cut off and without hope. And listen, stay put, because I believe God can breathe new life into you. I've experienced it. And some of you are here tonight and you feel like you're just now starting to get put back together. You're just starting to feel human again, but you can't breathe all the way yet. Breathing is still difficult. Stay put, stay connected. God is breathing new life in you and through you and all around you. And some of you are here tonight. You are like Ezekiel. You've been led here by God, and you know it's a valley of dry bones. That's the work we do. And you've come into this community. You followed God with a great deal of humility because you know where you've been. And let me remind you, this community needs you. This valley of dry bones needs you. And may we all be reminded, in this valley of dry bones, who does the work? God always does the work. We just get to show up. So I want you to take a moment and reflect on a question. In 2022, the start of this year, what's your relationship with God going to look like? What's your relationship with other people going to look like? Take a moment, reflect. Well, y'all, the truth is sometimes pastors lie. All right. Noel just let me know I lied to y'all. The shirts are not $15, they're $25. So if anyone goes up to Noel afterwards and says, hey, the pastor said it was 15, she's actually right. I'm wrong. My bad. Thank you, Noel, for reminding me. The t-shirts are $25. The coffee cups are $15. That's what I was thinking about, the coffee cups. All right, y'all. Hey, listen, every single week here at Free, one of the things that we love to do is bring in a guest storyteller. We've done it every single week since the backyard for 3 years. We have a different guest storyteller each week to share some of their experience, strength, and hope on the particular subject of the evening, which tonight is the Valley of Dry Bones and God not being mad at you in the valley. God wants new life for you, wants to redeem and restore. So tonight, I want you all to help me welcome my friend who just celebrated 4 years sober last week, Stephanie Field, ladies and gentlemen. Come on up. We're missing a microphone. Can we use this one? All right, now we got you, Stephanie. I turned it on for you. There we go.
All right.
Stephanie, thank you. And look at Stephanie. She's wearing the God is not mad at you t-shirt. I love it.
Not anymore. Not anymore, isn't it?
So, Stephanie, congratulations on 4 years.
Thank you so much.
I know it has been a journey, which is why I asked you to come and share tonight. Let's start here. I want you to talk to people about what the Valley of Dry Bones was like for you. And I'll preface it with reminding people, if you didn't see the social media post or the email, Stephanie said that she lost everything. Your 15-month-old daughter, Rebecca, died in a tragic accident, drowned in the bathtub.
Drowned in the bathtub.
After that, her father, your best friend, was killed in a drunk driving accident where he was the drunk driver.
He was.
And you described it as a loss of everything, and that caused you to become a control freak, to say it politely. Control things so that other people in your life wouldn't die.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through that journey a little bit?
Absolutely. Well, death has been a big part of my life for most of my life. I lost my grandfather when I was 7. That was my first experience with death. My next one came at 16 when I broke my neck. I was in a car accident. I hit a school bus head on, and I guess they think maybe I might have died for a minute, but I was in a halo for 2.5 months after surgeries, and it was a big struggle for a 16-year-old. And I kept wondering, why didn't he just let me die? Because it was just a lot. And my mom told me, you are meant to do something important. You are not dead because you have a purpose. So I just kind of hung on to that. But when my daughter was born, when I was 18, David and I were high school sweethearts. And we had our daughter right after we graduated. At 15 months old, she died. She drowned in the bathtub. I was the only adult home. So that's my fault. Nobody could tell me any different. I had a ton of support, but that was my fault in my head.
You carried that guilt and shame for many, many years, right?
I carried that guilt and shame, up until probably about 5 years ago. But her father and I, we stayed friends. We had a bond. We had a daughter together, And he was the only person on earth who knew how I felt, And when he died, I was actually about to I found out I was pregnant. And I was about to bring my soon-to-be husband up to meet David. And I'd called him on a Tuesday to tell him that I was pregnant. And He said he was happy for me. He said that losing Rebecca was a lot, but that we had come a long way and that we made it. And I said, yeah, we did. And I said, I'll see you on Saturday. I'm going to introduce you to, my future. I'm hoping we can all be like a family. And that night he went out and he did some partying and he drank, he drove, he died. So I woke up that morning, instead of going to introduce my new love and my new life to, Rebecca's father, I went home and I did death stuff. I went to David's parents' house and I was with his family. And I just kept thinking, this is my fault. If I hadn't told you that I was pregnant, you wouldn't have gone out and got drunk because we would have all been partying together. Like, I made it my fault. So again, now here's the two people that I loved the most, I feel are both dead, and it's my fault. So why did God keep me alive? You kept me alive for this? Why am I, you must be mad at me. I must really deserve this.
Yeah, so, and you said alcohol was the thing that kept you. It was like, and for those of you that have been there, you know what this is like. It's the barrier that keeps us from experiencing love and grace. So it's not that we get rid of alcohol and everything's fine again.
No.
But we get rid of a barrier. So walk us through a little bit about what it was like to get that barrier removed and to encounter the God who wasn't mad at you, but a God of love and grace is how you described it.
When, with the death of my daughter, I went into drugs. It wasn't so much alcohol, it was all about drugs. And then after, when I got pregnant with my oldest son, my life became all about them. I completely transferred any pain I had of anything onto my kids. I had to keep them alive because I couldn't let that happen to that. And when they got to be about school-aged, where they were in school all day, now I have got time on my hands. And I've got this brain that hasn't healed, that is still very controlling, because if I couldn't keep my first child alive, how is anybody else going to keep my kid? I have to do this. I have to do this. I got to prove something. I can keep my child alive. Like, this is a thought in my head. Keep me going here.
Yeah.
We knew this was going to happen.
I want people to hear you said that you prayed for God to save you.
Yes. So
and then 24 hours later,
Yes.
tell people what happened.
Yes. I didn't really have religion growing up, so I didn't know if God was real. But in this moment, I hoped and I prayed that God was real, because I asked him to save me from myself. My husband and I were divorcing, and I was going to be a single mom to these boys. I needed to take care of them extra now, but I knew I was an alcoholic. So I prayed on my way to pick up my son from school, help me stop drinking. And I was very specific. I said, please don't let it come in the form of illness or cancer, but somehow help me. And the very next day, life got lifey, and I did some drinks while they were at school. And then when I looked at the clock, I went, oh crap, I gotta go. I gotta go pick him up. I got in my car and I started driving, and in the exact same spot that I prayed 24 hours earlier, I crashed into an embankment, like the rock wall, and blew out my tire. And I had to get to that school, so I drove for 3 miles on a blown out tire, and I came into Sierra Middle School with sparks coming off of my rim. I did. And
Like a true alcoholic.
yes, I did.
And we can laugh at this now because it's, if you've been there, you've been there.
Yeah.
But you got arrested in front of
I got
your
arrested in
13-year-old.
front of my youngest son and his entire school and all of them, and the shame and the humiliation that came from that. But what came out of that is God heard me, because he set the wheels in motion. I was not going to seek out this help on my own. So he gave me a DUI.
And how did that shift your understanding of God, the universe, of how you began to see things, because you told me something really fascinating, and I said, I want people to hear this. The narrative that you told yourself for so many years was, I'm a piece of crap. I'm not worthy. I don't deserve anything good. So you started, after that moment, you started talking to yourself differently, and you imagined that's how God would talk to you.
I did. This happened, well, this moment with God, granting my wish, so to speak, it did freak me out. It let me know that power is real. It is real. But I was still drinking. It came when Ryan took away my kids legally, and he had every right to do that.
So the thing you tried to hold on to the most,
I lost.
you lost.
I lost again. I lost it again. But they weren't dead. They were not dead. They were still alive. I lost them, but they were still alive, and that gave me a little bit of hope. I had one place left to go, and that was rehab. So when I went to rehab, I took one photo with me. It was a picture of me and David, and I talked to him the whole time I was there. And I asked him, I said, David, you need to help me. You need to help me. Please don't let both of Rebecca's parents die of alcohol. I need to be a mom to these boys, and you need to help me. You can do this. I'm telling him, you can do this. You can do this for me. But as I'm telling him, help me, David, you can do this. We got this. You're here. We're all right. It changed the narrative in my head. I stopped telling myself that I was worthless. I stopped telling myself that I was even a killer, because I kind of felt that way. It changed the narrative in my head to the point where when I'm telling myself, I can do this, it was loving. I didn't really talk to myself in a loving way, and I did. I imagined, like, oh, this is probably how God would talk to me if he were sitting right here. And I started to feel, more connection. And when that connection started happening, for the first time since 1992, I was feeling my daughter around me. I felt her energy around me. And that was a welcome gift. And it let me know that all of those years that I was telling myself, I was horrible, I was worthless, I messed up in the biggest way, I'm not worthy, I was closing the window on her being able to communicate with me. Because if I'm saying these things are wrong, I'm playing God. Like, I know she should have lived to be an old lady. I don't know these things.
And what's so fascinating, Stephanie, is I watch you. You've been involved here for, I don't know, has it been a year?
Just since August.
Has it just been August?
Right?
I feel like we've known each other forever. Oh, my goodness.
I just came in and made myself at home,
I watch the way you talk to others. I watch the way you treat others. And I've told you this, and I mean it. You're like a bright light in this community. For those of you that have encountered Stephanie, she's always like this big ball of energy, of love, of kindness. And so the way you talk to yourself, because you imagine that's the way God is talking to you, has transformed into making a difference in the lives of others. And that's really cool.
That would be, if I could say,
we got an amen out of that. Come on.
I love it. Love it. Amen. Yes. If I had to go through all of this stuff that I've gone through in my life, I didn't do it for no reason.
Yeah.
I didn't do it for nothing. I've always been an open book, but pre getting sober, my open book was sloppy and it was messy and it was very self-centered and very selfish. But my open book now is I'm going to tell you about my dark dirties, the things that I didn't talk about before, and that's why they had such power over me.
Yeah.
I wasn't talking about these things. I wasn't giving good words. I wasn't prophesying.
Yeah.
I was
hope.
Exactly. I was commiserating with a lot of people.
Yeah.
And the commiseration felt like a connection, but it wasn't. It was just like another reason to stay in my valley of dry bones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In a couple of sentences, can you tell people, it was such a powerful moment. In fact, it was one of the most powerful moments for me was when I got to baptize you in the wagon right before we moved here. It was the It was the last week in our old space. Can you just in a couple of sentences share with people why you got baptized?
When I was a child, I asked my mom, what do we believe? What's our religion? And she said, oh, honey, I can't choose that for you. You have to find that on your own. And I was about 10 years old, and I had no idea how to do that. How do you do that? I'm 48 right now, and I'm so grateful that nothing was forced on me, nothing was shoved down my throat. I was allowed to find my faith in my own way and in my own time, and I found it. I found it when I got sober. I found it at Parker Valley Hope. I find it here. And the fact that I actually can say, I made a choice and I found my relationship with God. I found my faith. And that was why I decided to get baptized. It was my commitment to God that I'm going to walk hand in hand with you, that you are always with me. Because for my whole life, I felt alone and like you didn't care. Almost like you had it out for me. Because I'm special like that, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why I wanted to be baptized here.
So Stephanie walks in last week, and she can show you later. She got this cool tattoo of a wagon, and it's got the free logo on. It's the wagon that you were baptized in, which, by the way, folks, is right outside these doors if you want to check it out, the baptismal wagon. She got this tattooed on her, and it's even got water splashing out of it, right?
It does.
And you said you got water splashing out to remind you of...
Well, that happened, it just, the way my artist did the tattoo of what I had asked, I walked in and she showed me this thing and I went, oh my God, that is perfect. It is absolutely perfect because the water is splashing out. Like whenever I feel like I need to hold God's hand. See, I can't talk and that's, whenever I feel like I need to go hold God's hand, I can just put my hand right over my heart because that's where
beautiful.
this tattoo is, and it's just going to splash in that water all over again.
I love it.
It's cleansing.
It is cleansing.
know?
Stephanie, thank you for sharing with us tonight. She'll be hanging around tonight if you want to ask her more questions. But Stephanie, can we do something that just a bit impromptu? I didn't tell you this because I didn't know I was going to do it. I just decided to do it now.
I love impromptu stuff.
Good. Let's do something impromptu. I want you all to participate in this too. Can you all, Stephanie, can you just stand here in the light? Stand in the light.
In the light.
And I'm going to...
Where the light is.
You don't
There's
even
a
need a
John
mic for
Mayer
this.
song. Maybe karaoke on the party time. I'm down
That's
for
next
karaoke.
week. Let's. I just want to say a prayer over Stephanie because the truth is, you didn't mention this yet, but Stephanie's not going to be with us very long. Well, that sounds awful to say. So, Stephanie is not going to be living in Colorado for much longer. She is moving to Florida, and so this will be a good journey. You can tune in online. You're still part of us. So I want you all to extend your good vibes, your energy, your love, your kindness. I want you to direct all that energy towards Stephanie right now. I'm going to put a hand on you. In the ancient church, you know, they would put hands on each other because they believed in this thing called divine energy, that God's energy was flowing in us and through us. And that's where the tradition of hands come. Yeah, you get to hold God's hand when you put your hand on your heart. So let's just pray over Stephanie and wish her well. God, we give you thanks for Stephanie's life, her journey of sobriety and all that it means in this community. And God, we are grateful for your grace, your love, your compassion, your kindness, that you aren't mad at us, at Stephanie, but you journey with us. You keep pulling us forward. You keep loving us, restoring and redeeming. So God, go with Stephanie and allow her to continue to be a shining light, to spread hope and love to other people's lives, even in Florida. Everywhere she goes, may she be a shining light in the darkest places. God, we give you thanks, and we know that you are going to travel with her. So grace and peace will be with her. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Stephanie. All right, y'all, how we close things down here at Free. And if you're new with us, we do close things by 8:15. So there's that. But speaking of wagon, Speaking of wagon, you know why I'm not going to tell the whole story of the wagon right now. I'll tell that another day. But the reason we're the wagon is because we do this journey together. And when someone falls off the wagon, we help that person back on. We do this. You weren't created to carry all the heavy burdens, all your heartaches alone. We've tried it. I mean, if you've been in the depths of addiction, you know a thing or two about isolation. You suck at carrying those things alone. We're not cut out for it. So we carry it together in community. So I want y'all, just like we did with celebrations, we'll do the same thing with heartaches. Take 3 minutes. If you're joining us online, it's your opportunity to get vulnerable, to let this community in, to let God in on your heartaches. It's not your opportunity, if you're in the house, to give us your dissertation on pain. It's just a sentence or two of how we can lift you up, how we can pray for you. We have a prayer team here on site at Free, and we pray for y'all throughout the week. And we take great joy and privilege in walking this journey together. And I know this community better than so many other communities. Y'all know what it's like to connect and to text one another, lift each other up, and pray for one another. So that's what we do here. So take 3 minutes. The heartache, the burden that you're carrying, lift it up. Derek will pass around a mic. Me up here? Lewis, Brother Lou, come on up. Welcome. Hey, before we jump in, you got to get on this side, though. If there's something weird, man, I can't have someone on my right side. You got to be on my left side. Should we make it weird?
Yeah.
Let's not make it weird. So, is it on?
Yeah.
You're on. Hold on. Before we get into that, though, major prayers for our brothers and sisters just north of here. I know many of you have checked in on Facebook. I don't know, at least Tammy and I experienced that. People asking if we were okay. You know, there was major fires just before the snowstorm hit. Was that 2 days ago now? Yes. 2 nights ago. I think it was 1,000 homes lost, buildings, businesses, lives that, lots of devastation. So no loss of life, but lots of devastation. So hold our brothers and sisters up north in prayer as they walk through a difficult journey coming up.
Yeah, I had a buddy who's a fireman, Westminster fireman. He said that they were literally dropping hoses in neighborhoods that they were just trying to save.
Yeah.
They had to leave. They had 14-hour shifts with 2 hours of rest. So pray for the guys that are on the front, first responders too, that are on the line. That's insane. He said Mother Nature. He saw Mother Nature at its worst.
Yeah.
It's good up here. You want to make it weird or no?
No, let's not make it weird. You already made it weird, kind of. So Lou, this is our monitor. This is where we'll put the comments on. You can look at yourself in the monitor and look at the comments. You take the first one. I'll take the
It does add a little bit of weight. We're good.
They just get an out shot now. You're welcome.
It's good to be back. I missed y'all.
All right. Pam,
All
Pam
right.
was on there.
Yeah, Pam. Prayers for Pam. My son has a court date on 1/5. There are several charges in 2 counties. I don't know details, but please pray for whatever outcome will ultimately serve him best. Absolutely. We always, I've been there. I've been where, in his shoes, and it's scary going in. So prayers for your son.
All right. Terry says, Friday is a high-risk meeting that's re-traumatizing. My spouse and pastor will be present, but I'm already suffering. Please pray for a miracle for divine intervention. Terry, lifting you up in prayers for this meeting that's going to happen on Friday. Praying for the best possible outcome and lots of peace and comfort coming your way. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Oh, Haley, please pray for my friend Elisa's child. I am not going to try that. How do you say that? Sochi? Yeah, that's cool. And for Russell and all the loved ones struggling with their loss after Monday's shooting. Please pray for Jimmy's recovery and for the loss of his wife, Elise, and for everyone else impacted. Please pray for the healing and for all those experiencing deep loss going on into this new year. That is mental illness at its finest. That's what's happening right here.
It particularly hit the tattoo community here in Denver. So prayers for you all going through that. Thank you, Hallie, for lifting them up. Jen out in North Carolina says, prayers for our Gracie. We rescued her on November 12th. 3-month-old puppy that was shot twice. She is paralyzed. She's with an awesome foster and will be beginning acupuncture and hydrotherapy in a week. Prayers for her sweet self. Prayers for Gracie. I don't know who would, shot twice. That's unbelievable. Praying for Gracie. Yeah. Is that it for now? Okay. Hey, listen, thank you for joining me, Lou.
I want to say one thing. Just one thing.
Say it.
God hears you. When you say it out loud, it's not a secret anymore. And I will say that. When you talk about grief or whatever it is, the power we carry keeping it a secret is what kills us. So for you sharing that power is already out there. So good for you.
That's a good word, man. Thank you, Lou. And listen, if y'all have other burdens to shout out, you can put them on the Facebook thread or the YouTube comments, and we do keep track of those and jot them down throughout the week. So it doesn't have to stop tonight. You can keep it going. Hey, again, speaking of the wagon, so we used to have in our old location, and when we started in the backyard, we had a wagon as a central image, still a central image in this community. Our giving box used to sit on top of the wagon. Now, it changed now. We have giving boxes, one here and one outside these doors, and there's a few other boxes scattered throughout the free premises. I got to think of a better word for that. But I just want to take a moment and really stress to you how grateful we are for your continued and generous giving in this community. I know for many of you that is a spiritual practice. It's a sacrificial practice. You give, and you notice it in the pocketbook. It hurts a little bit. And so your giving truly does help this sustain this mission. And I hate using that word sustain. I would much rather say it helps this mission thrive. And then in just about 4 to 6 weeks, Matt, don't kill me for saying that. If it takes longer, I get it. But the cafe is going to be up and running, and this is going to be, and it already is, but more so, it's going to be a recovery center to be a place of connection for the very disconnected. It's going to be a place where life happens. So our cafe will be up and running. You'll see changes in the kitchen happening soon with coffees and lattes and grab-and-go food items, and a place for you all to connect, and it'll be open daily. And so I can't wait for that to happen. If you are considering giving in this community, outside of the giving boxes, we do have 3 ways to give that I like to tell you about each week. Safe, simple, and secure. The first way is to simply download the free Spiritual Community app. It's free to download, and you can find a giving button there and give weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, however you want to do it, or a one-time donation, or go to the website, freespiritualcommunity.com, and click on the give button there. Or you can text the number on your screen. Text to them, Be the Wagon, and then it sends you a simple set of instructions. And truly, y'all, thank you. Your generous giving helps keep this community going, and we are super grateful for that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We should close with a prayer, huh? How about, each week we have some prayers that are in the recovery community, some prayers that we have here at Free that y'all know, and each week I try to take a great amount of intention and say, which one do we want to do? The Serenity Prayer, the Lord's Prayer, a different prayer. This week, as I was preparing this message, Derek, why don't you come up and close us in prayer? Because it was the 3rd step prayer that you have tattooed on your arm. You want to take us out with 3rd step prayer? If y'all don't know it, it's on the screen. There it is.
Thanks, brother. God, I offer myself to Thee to build with me and to do with me as Thy will. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do Thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of Thy power, Thy love, and Thy way of life. May I do Thy will always.
Thank you, brother. My free brothers and sisters, this week, may you experience all kinds of grace and peace, even if you are in the midst of the valley of dry bones. Remember, we are called to the valley of dry bones. May you experience grace and peace in knowing that God is not mad at you, but God takes great delight in you, and we will see you next week.